All right, YouTube, what's going on? So today, we're going to be talking about the reality of chasing success as a young black man. And I think this is an important topic to talk about. As a young black man myself, as I start to age and all of those things combined, I am realizing that the path to adulthood, or the path through adulthood, I should say, for young black men, of course, this is the same as everybody else. And a lot of young black men nowadays really don't have anybody that is a role model to them or is preparing them for, I guess, life or chasing success, right? So that's why I thought this would be something interesting to talk about. And yeah, I just sort of wanted to go through my thoughts about what I think comes with chasing success as a young black man, and really the parts that the world does not prepare us for or talk to us about, right? So growing up in black culture, right, as a young black man, our culture is heavily leaned and heavily geared towards things that are not necessarily productive, right? Most young black men nowadays are not really engaged in intellectual conversations, not really engaged in academia. Most young black men do not go to college, excuse me. I'm sure that our women go to college more than we do now. So, all of these things work together, and it creates an environment where black men, especially the younger you are, you're sort of inclined to not really care about education, right? And we're going to start with education because I think that's like the main, I guess, path to success in America is getting an education and learning a skill, right? Most young black men really don't have a desire to learn a skill that's beyond what the culture deems acceptable. And what I mean by that is most young black men want to be a rapper, want to be an athlete or something along those lines. I'm sure if you go to any school and you ask young black children, let's say under the age of 18, what do they want to do when they get older? Most of them are probably going to say they want to be a rapper, athlete, something along the entertainment lines. And that's hugely because of our culture, right? And the problem with that is that, there's not anything wrong with wanting to be an athlete or wanting to be a rapper, right? But the problem with that is that we don't have enough role models in our communities to show us a different path. And that's this whole idea of chasing success, right? If you grow up in a society or a culture where the people that you see success from are mainly rappers and athletes, it makes sense that you're going to be oriented towards pursuing those as careers as well, right? But I think the problem with that, of course, I'm sure we've heard this a million times. Being a rapper, not everybody can be a rapper, and not everybody can be an athlete. Not everybody's going to go to the NBA and whatnot. So I think those things put us in a box because it's like, okay, if I can't be a rapper, if I can't be an athlete, if I can't be like a street guy and have clout, persona, etc., what am I really aiming for, right? And I think that's why a lot of young black men are sort of in this position where like they're lost. They don't really even know necessarily what they want to do with their life. Like there are a lot of young 21-year-old, 22-year-old men who genuinely have no idea what it is they really want to do. And I think the cause of that is a lack of role models, and our culture does not promote education or intellectual success to us at all. Because I guess I want to make clear, I don't think success is mainly money. I think success encompasses multiple things, and money is just one of them. You can argue that money is probably the most important thing, but success is not just about money, right? But I don't think a lot of young black men realize that to begin with, or even have their eyes geared towards the money part in a realistic way. Being a rapper, being an athlete, all of these entertainment, I guess ways to make money, they look good and they're appealing to us because that's what our culture is, but that's really not the most realistic way to make money. I think another big point that relates to this whole chasing success as a young black man is that a lot of us don't really want to face the reality that chasing success educationally, I guess you can say, it makes you a bit of an outlier. And I like to use myself as an example because out of all of my friends from high school, I'm probably the only person who went to college and actually graduated and got a 4-year degree, right? And to an extent, I don't want to say that makes me an outlier, but as I age, I can definitely say that it gets harder for me to continue aligning myself with the culture that we have if I want to live a productive, successful life. Because a lot of the times, black culture promotes negativity, to just put it lightly. It promotes negativity. And as a young black man, it's real easy for you to fall into that trap. And I'm not going to say like, okay, all right, we say negativity. What do I mean by that? Our culture promotes, like, the music that we listen to is not necessarily the best. We don't really have a lot of role models. We all know about the fatherlessness problem in our communities, right? So all of these things don't really contribute to a society or a community where young men are motivated to really do much besides engage in the culture they see. If you grow up in Asian culture, or let's say you grow up in any culture besides Black America, chances are you're going to more likely be around people who are more educationally motivated, people who have a financial background, et cetera, right? And as a result, you're likely going to go down these paths rather than go down the path of being a hood person or in the streets, right? But if you live in a Black neighborhood, you grow up around hood people all of the time, you're around drug dealers, you grow up in the projects, let's say, the chances that you are going to break out of that mold and try to pursue something different is very low, because for one, you have no role model, right? And even if you do, because we can't use the role models as a dead end excuse anymore. It's the internet. It's a lot of information out there, right? So let's say you're somebody who manages to come across information that benefits you, right? And you start taking action in your life. It's still going to be a bit of a challenge for you to actually pursue that, because you are surrounded by people who do not think like you. And that's a big problem in the Black community. There are a lot of young Black men, since that's who this video is about, there are a lot of young Black men who would want to get out of their environment and who want to pursue more, but they genuinely do not have any inspiration, role models, or anybody encouraging them to do so. And for the most part, they're going to be discouraged from doing so. Oh, don't go to school. It's a waste of time, et cetera, et cetera. We have all of these, I guess you can say, negative things going against us. And any motivation that a young Black man may have to do good and do positive in the community is sort of overturned by the negativity that our culture has, if that really makes sense. And I think, like, the last point that I really want to make, I guess, regarding this is the fact that a lot of young Black men really are uncomfortable being in environments that are not suited to them. And this is something that I've experienced myself as I went through college, especially as I got towards my junior and senior years. I started to be like the only Black person in a lot of my classes. And that feeling is uncomfortable. It's not something that is like easy to get over. Like, the idea of going into an all white or all Asian, all Jewish, anything besides Black environment, it certainly could be daunting to a regular person, right? And especially if you do not come from an environment that challenges you to step out of your comfort zone or do anything like that, you're not going to want to do it. It's just a simple reality. Most Black men, most young Black men are not trying to, I guess, infiltrate corporate America because they simply do not feel comfortable doing so. Most young Black men don't even think that they can do it. That's why this whole idea of being an athlete and an entertainer is so prevalent in our community, because the idea of going to school and being intellectual and learning something and getting a skill, for the most part, it's really not something that young Black men think about. And I'm saying young Black men in particular because young Black women, they have more of a grasp on what their idea of what they want to do is, right? Young Black women go to school more than us now. That's a statistical fact. And I think the reason for that is because society sort of sets them up better in terms of figuring out, like, what do you want to do? Most of the time women are told now, go to school, get an education, be independent, etc. So women have a motivation besides themselves from the start, and that's to be independent. They don't want to have to depend on a man or whatnot. That's what our culture promotes, right? But there isn't that same sentiment for men. So men have no, make sure you're independent. That's what you're expected to do as a man. So this whole thing is really affecting us more so than it is the women. And it's not really getting better, it seems, because more and more young Black men are choosing not to go to school, which can be good because a lot of degrees are useless, but they're choosing not to engage in any intellectual challenging topics or anything like that at all. And we're starting to fall behind, like, a lot. I think the biggest challenge that I would say young Black men go through is going against our own culture, right? And what I mean by that is that, like I said before, our culture is heavily geared towards things that are not necessarily beneficial for us in the long run, right? And it can be very hard for you to realize that as a young black man, especially if you're surrounded by people who think the same way. So it's not as easy as just realizing like, oh, I need to think this way. I need to think long term about my future success, community, etc. It's not that easy, but I'm making this video. Hopefully somebody sees it and somebody takes something from it, because the only way we really change these patterns in our community is starting to make a change ourselves, right? And as a young black man, I'm 22 years old. I like to think I fit the stereotypical black upbringing. I didn't grow up in the best environment, but I like to think I also made a good life for myself as a 22-year-old. I'm doing pretty well. So addressing these issues is important to me. And if anybody watches this, a young black man, anybody, I hope you feel the same way. And hopefully our community can start to improve in the future, especially as it comes to us young black men. So anyway, that's all I want to talk about today. You have a good rest of your day. As always, it's been your boy Brandon Davis. I'm out.